Hello, can you hear me? Year 8. I guess I'm going to have to unmute some of you to get a response to that, aren't I? Ask Ethan. I'll ask you to unmute. Right, no talking to each other. You're only allowed to talk to me while we're doing the lesson. Cass. Thank you, Jamie. Just bear with me a second. We're still waiting for a few people to arrive. Thanks, David. Right, I think we're a pretty trustworthy group, so I'm happy to unmute you all and have you speak to me. I'd rather you didn't speak to each other. I don't think that's ideal. Who's that? Chris. Oh, your mic made a noise. Let me pick somebody out. Hannah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. If you want to turn your cameras on and say hello, feel free to do that, although you don't have to. And that would be entirely up to you. Give it a couple more minutes to see if anyone's going to.
Hello.
Hello, Sam. How you doing?
Not bad, thanks.
Good. How are you finding the old lockdown?
It's fine. A bit boring.
Hello.
Yeah. Hi, Joel. Yeah, it's like life, but not really, isn't it? You know, it's a bit like how I imagine it must be in North Korea. Although somebody in North Korea.
Not quite that bad, sir.
No, they're not firing at us with artillery for undermining the state quite yet. But you get my meaning. No. Like life's a little bit less than it might be, but we've got summer to look forward to, haven't we? So
yep.
I think I don't know. All things being equal, we'll be back on some kind of normality by the summer. Right. So where are we now? 14:02. I'm to wait for till 5 past to see who's going to show up. And then what we're doing to you, what we're doing today rather, is the tri-weekly feedback lesson from last week. So it won't be the full hour, this one. I'm just going to probably about half an hour or so. We'll run through it. Then I'll give you the feedback tasks to do, and then you're to upload those onto class charts. Oh, right, okay. How do I get waiting room? Oh, there's 14 people. There's 6 people in there. Golly gosh, look at you all. So you can use the chat feature to talk to me. But as I say, I'll just go over that again because some of you weren't quite in the room. We're going to be going through the tri-weekly today, tri-weekly feedback. So it won't be the full hour. It will be me running through. Well, let's get on with the lesson, and I'll show you. So hopefully you can all contact me if you've got any questions as we go along. I will upload the lesson to class charts afterwards without a commentary. It doesn't seem a bit superfluous to put a commentary on it. So I'll upload it just so you can see what it is you needed to do. And onward. So share screen. No, I want this one. Right, one thing I haven't figured out how to do yet is to get that to not be like that. It doesn't matter. You can all see it, can't you? So what we're doing today is the learning objective is to complete the feedback on the Macbeth Spring Tri-Weekly 1. As ever, you don't need to write that in. What you do need to write into your book is Spring Tri-Weekly 1 feedback. You're going to need your Tri-Weekly, a pen and an exercise book. So I'll just give you a minute to get those. I imagine most of you have got those, but if you haven't got them, get them, and then write the title, Spring Tri-Weekly 1 feedback, onto your piece of paper or in your book, ideally. Hopefully it's going in your book. So I'll just give you a minute to do that.
Wait, how do we get our tri-weekly?
What do you mean? Oh, what you mean to have it in front of you? Have you not got not put it in your book?
Yeah, don't worry.
No, sure. Yeah. Now, before we get into that, I've got to show you these two slides before we get into the actual thing. We've done that bit. You can give your turn your camera on and give us a wave if you want. I'll say hello in the chat. You want to rename yourself, use your first name only. I'm sure you're seeing this on every lesson you're doing. You've got to write your name in the chat, first name and surname, because this is my record of attendance. I'm sure you're pretty up to speed on these slides, but there's another one here that I'm required to show you. Here are the rules. I don't think I need to worry with you guys. You're all good chaps and ladies. So only you, the student, are allowed to contribute to the lesson. Yes, I don't have people in the background. Only unmute when you're asking or answering a question. Do not interrupt people when they're talking. All the same rules as in the classroom. If you've got a question, put a question in the chat box. Write the question in the chat box. You know, as I say, I'm pretty certain you've been over these multiple times. So there you are. So here we are. This quote, this is our do now. This quote is from Act 1, Scene 3, when the witches have told Macbeth he will be king. I think it's a great quote. You could write an essay on this quote, I think. Whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and make my seated heart knock at my ribs. Now, analyse this quote and show what it shows about Macbeth's state of mind. So write that quote into your books. Whose horrid image doth unfix my hair and make my seated heart knock at my ribs, and analyse it, and in light of what you think it shows us about Macbeth's state of mind. He's just been told, the witches have told him that, he's going to become king. They've already one of their prophecies, he's become Thane of Cawdor, so he's starting to think there might be something in this. Yeah, what does that quote tell us about him? And then I might pick, well, in fact I will, pick someone to share their work. So I'll give you 5 minutes to do that, Year 8, and then I'll come back to you. Any questions, just pop up in the chat box or ask me. Oh, there it is, Dick. Finally. I've gone on to the next. Right, apologies for that. I've gone on to the next slide there, which gives my what I would have done in the do now. Would anyone care to share what they did though, just verbally? I'm going to pick perhaps on Hannah there. I'll ask to unmute you. I don't know if you managed to do anything there, did you?
Yes.
Would you care to share it?
Yes, so I got unfix my hair, which shows he's worried about someone ruining his successes. And I also got seated heart, which shows he is comfortable with where he is in his life and does not feel as though his heart must move and he is ready to succeed.
So you see it shows him as being like happy in, well, not happy, but content in his life at the moment, and that he's
Yes.
Right. What was the first bit of the thing? That was the seated heart. What was the first bit you said?
Unfix my hair, which shows he's worried about someone else ruining his success.
Ruining, yeah. Okay, good. Yeah, I like that. That's very good. Let's have, well done. Let's go to Chris. Ask to unmute. There we go. What did you have, sir?
Okay, I had Macbeth thinks he is turning into an evil person along with his heart being seated shows he is withering out to be evil whilst he is bruising himself by murdering people.
Withering out?
Yeah.
That's an interesting phrase. What does that mean?
I don't know, like he's just slowly dying, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think you didn't have long to do that, and I think you both hit at the heart of what's at this quote, because it shows his sort of, as I've said here, Macbeth, he's unable to trust himself against his ambition. He's frightened about what he is. Part of him is frightened about what he's capable of. It shows a sort of duality on him, because he sees it as a horrid image, and it doth unfix my hair, so it makes his hair stand on end and his heart beat loudly. So he's having a kind of physical reaction to what he thinks he might do. So, you know, this is a person who cannot trust himself. You know, there's a kind of a word that we apply to another text to be doing duality. There's a duality about him. He's kind of carried along by his ambition. He's almost a passenger because it's making his heart knock at his ribs and his hair stand on end. I mean, it's completely within his own power. Well, you'd imagine, wouldn't you, to stop that happening by simply saying, well, I'm not going to kill the king. But no matter how many times he says that, his body says different. It says that, yeah, well, you might do. So, so there you go. Well done. Let's go on to the next slide now. Right. I was very impressed with your tri-weekly responses. You all understood how to approach the question of presentation, that is through the prism of language and structure, as we all know. And most of you used appropriate evidence, which was analysed well. There were two things missing for the most part, or not used enough. Lack of both close word analysis, so you'd have your argument and your position, and then you'd find an ideal piece of evidence that supported what you were doing, and you'd put the evidence in there and you'd say this quotation shows whatever. But you have to do that extra bit of picking out words as Hannah and Chris just did for us. You know, you've got to pick out individual words and analyse those in light of what you're being asked to prove. And the other thing was there was really not very much analysis of structure at all, and you have to analyse structure equally with language. But these are not problems at this stage. These are all just you know, it's all part of the process. It's easy to get lost in the language. It is Shakespeare after all, and forget about the structure. But structure, particularly when you're talking about a play, is very important. You can use things like stage directions. You know, we will talk in more detail about iambic pentameter as we move along. But for now, for today, your tasks are going to be some close word analysis and some structure. In case I haven't said this, I'm not giving, nor is anybody in the English department, individual marks on these at this stage during this time. But so what we're looking for is sort of general areas of improvement. We will get data from you when you do your end of term exams and so on. Right, so that's what we're going to be looking at. We're going to be looking at close word analysis and structure. And Sam, I've picked yours because you managed to actually do some good close word analysis, and you mentioned structure. Other people did mention structure, but I particularly like this because you talked about contrast. It's not something people often talk about. And with structure, you should always go big and then go small. Now, what I mean by that is when people talk about structure or they start writing about it, they often start talking about punctuation. You know, this comma means that, or this semicolon indicates that, which they very seldom do. They're there normally to give you beats in the reading and occasionally to give emphasis to things. But they are nevertheless structure, and you can use punctuation. But when you talk about contrast, you're talking about where certain bits of information are placed in the text against others. That is a structural decision. You know, Shakespeare giving you this piece of information then, and then giving you another piece later, which creates an effect. So the use of the language, device of descriptive language in the quote, "Let not my heart see my dark and deep desires," is very much used to show that Macbeth is not loyal but a scheming traitor. The use of the word dark is especially effective because that his desires are not harmless but evil. This makes the reader dislike Macbeth's new plan. I would not use a word like dislike. If you're writing sort of academic responses, you want to shy away from your own likes and dislikes. So you might want to say, this makes the reader, this enables the reader to see that Macbeth has other plans. Talk about, you know, the narrative rather than your likes and dislikes. But nevertheless, very good. Well done, Sam. And then the structural device of contrast in the phrase, "Yet let that be," which is in contrast to the plotting on his monologue before that. I won't read the rest of it out because, well, the phrase shows that he knows that Malcolm shall be king if Duncan dies, if he does not flee in the wake of it. So your words have disappeared behind something there. So he hopes to make him flee. This makes the reader horrified at the thought that Macbeth might frame Malcolm. Slightly confused that second one, but I really like what you were reaching for there, Sam. Contrast is a very powerful tool of structure. You know, when you talk about contrast, you talk about the, you know, the order that paragraphs go, not paragraph, the order that chapters go in, things like that. You know, stories are arranged in certain ways, you know, to create an effect. So, well done, everybody. So, as I say, very good, except for we need to focus more on the close word analysis and the structure. Oh, and there's one here. This is Isabel. This was just a slightly less. I wanted to put it there because it's exclamation mark in the quote. The Prince of Cumberland shows that Macbeth is annoyed. So you can obviously talk about punctuation. Don't let what I said put you off using punctuation, but it should be the last thing you think about. And something as simple as an exclamation mark, you know, can show an exclamation. You know, it could be annoyance or it could be happiness, depending on the context that it's in. Right. Right, this is a quote here from Act 1, Scene 5 that we looked at last lesson. What does it tell us about her state of mind? Perform a close word analysis on language as well as structure. I want you to do. So come, you spirits that tend all mortal thoughts, unsex me here and fill me from the crown to the toe top full of direst cruelty. What does this tell her about her state of mind? So I want you to perform a close word analysis on that. And then I'm going to be picking people out to read it to me. So off you go. And as I say, any questions as you go along, use the chat box or you can speak to me. So I'll be quiet now for the next 10 minutes. Well, 8 minutes I'll give you to do that, 8 minutes. I really think about what it tells us, you know, about her state of mind. We know what it means, don't we? Because we looked at that last lesson. We know what this quote means, what she's asking for. But what does that tell us about her state of mind? And how would it make the reader feel about this character? So we, after all, only just met at that stage. Okay, just one more minute on that then, and then I'll pick somebody at random to share what they've done. Right, let's have a little look through. Who can I select? Better give Lily a bit of breathing space there. Let's have Mr. Pollard. There you are, Sam. Can you tell us what you've got there? Or not? Oh, Sam, there you are.
Sorry, I didn't hear it. Would you like me to share what I?
Would you? But yeah, I was
decided on?
interested to hear what you'd made of that quote. That was all.
Well, I think
Reading out what you've read.
Lady Macbeth. Okay. The word cruelty shows us that whatever she is about to do will be evil or dark.
Mhm.
The fact that she is asking for it indicates that she knows she might not be capable of doing it and that she needs more to accomplish what she wants. This might
Absolutely.
make the reader shocked, as they might not have thought she would be doing this, or scared for what might happen next.
That's very good, Sam. Well done. Two things I would. Well, one thing really. Did you mention any structure in there?
I couldn't really find any structure in the.
Yeah, this is, and I don't blame you. I mean, it's a very hard thing to do. I would argue that if it was me, structurally, I would have said this is the first time that Lady Macbeth delivers a monologue of any type. Oh no, it isn't. She does one with the letter, doesn't she? This is her second big monologue, and it's placed in the play. You know, we haven't known her for long, and she comes out with "Unsex Me Here" and "Fill Me from the Crown to the Toe Top Full of Diary's Cruelty." She wants to have all her womanliness taken away and be turned into a murderer. So structurally, it's laying out Lady Macbeth's stall pretty early on in the play. That's what I'd say. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to find some structure actually in that quote. I think if you wanted to, you could argue that clause "unsex me here" is separated from the rest of it by being a separate clause and would emphasize what she's talking about. But no, well done, Sam. That's top work. You get an achievement point for that. So let's go on to somebody else. Victoria, let's hear what you had. Hello.
Okay, hello.
Speak up a little, Victoria.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Just about, yes, you're very quiet, but that's fine, I can hear.
The quote "and fill me up from the crown to the toe top full of dearest cruelty" shows us that Lady Macbeth's state of mind is very different to what people around her think. It also tells us that she wants to be powerful and in control.
Absolutely right. Yes, I think that's good. I think you've perhaps inadvertently hit on one of the big things about Macbeth as a play here, which is equivocation. You know, people appearing to be one thing and actually being another, which was something that not a lot of people wrote about at that time. In fact, I would argue hardly anybody. You know, she's telling us who she, you know, what's really going on in her mind while she's still being this amazing host. So well done. We'll have one more. Who shall I go to? Isabel. I think we'll go to you. So I'll ask to unmute you. There you go. Let's see what you had. You there, Isabel? Never mind. Isabel's. Oh, there she is. She's unmuted. You there? Oh, that's annoying. I can't hear you. I can see that you've unmuted, and I can't hear you. Never mind. We'll move on. Let's just go here and then. Right. So your feedback task is to write either one paragraph that contains both a closed word analysis and an analysis of structure. I think pretty much all of you can do that, or 2 paragraphs with one, language in one and structure in the other. Now, being adept at this, being good at it, means that you can write about a quote and talk about its language and structure all in the same paragraph. So I'd like you to try that. Let's say we'll all try that, getting it all into one paragraph. And you need to be looking at, so you're going back to your tri-weekly that you did, picking a paragraph and then rewriting it using one of the quotes that you've got there, and doing a closed word analysis on the quote that you've got. If you've already done one, then do a different one, and putting some structure in there as well, all into the same paragraph. Now remember, you can talk about structurally, you can talk about, as Sam did, the contrast, where that quote sits in the play, what it tells us, or if there is some particularly startling piece of punctuation, like a semicolon or an exclamation mark or a question mark that you can talk about, then do that. So that's what I want you to do. Now, anybody got any questions? Now's the time to ask. I shall upload this onto ClassCharts, but ask now if you want to. Are you all able to talk to me on the chat? Oh, here we are. Here's the chat function. Right, so excuse me. So here's a bunch of questions coming up. You can type a message to Sarah only, Sam Parker. Okay. Oh, Ms. Bell's microphone doesn't work. Okay, that's fine. Yes, you can do the 2 paragraphs if you want, Sam. Try and put them into one, though. It's just a question of being, adept at writing. But if you want to put it into 2, then that's fine. Which quote do we use, Isabel? You're going back to your tri-weekly and using one of the quotes that you used in your tri-weekly. Yes, stage directions do count as a structural device, in answer to Mari's question. Always remember that in plays. Right, any other questions, people? Have I answered all those? Perhaps you can... So I'm guessing we're all happy then, are we? Oh, here we are. What happens if you don't have structure? Well, you've got to find some, Mithra. The whole thing is structure, isn't it? Where if you go back and look at your quotes, Mithra, I bet you can find some structure in there, even if it's just some commas that have created a separate clause. Why is that clause separate? Because by separating it out from the rest of the sentence, it's been emphasized, isn't it? Just give it a go. It's important that we focus as much on structure as language. It is the harder of the 2 things, though, to be fair. So it will perhaps might take a bit more thought. Now, Mithra, think about where your quote takes place in the play and why it's important that it's there. That's structure. Chris, to everyone, can I write what I just did, but better? Well, Chris, if you've done a close word analysis and talked about structure, then yes, but I don't believe you talked about structure, did you? Did you get that, Chris? Good. I mean, to make it better is to include a close word analysis and structure. Well, if you're all happy, I'm going to leave you to that task now, which you will upload onto class charts at the end of play today. And well done. We'll do another live lesson later in the week. Hang on, who's this? Chloe to me. I don't know what structure there is in let light not see my dark and deep desires. No, as we spoke earlier on, Chloe, I think you know, quite often when you look at a quote and you take it out of the play and you say, there's a structure in that, and there isn't any. But whereabouts does he say that in the play, and what's the significance of the positioning of it? So he says that, let light not see my dark and deep desires. When does he say that? And why is it important that he says it at that point? You know, he says it in the midst. If you said that is embedded in an aside, a monologue that he makes, isn't it, to the audience? So why that's a structural thing. That could be because you know, he's showing us his interior life, isn't he? At that point, and it's important for our understanding of the play, what's going on, that we know that. So that's what I'd talk about. I'll hang on here for a few more questions just in case. This is 10 times better than just sending a recorded lesson, isn't it? You can see that straight away. Okay, good. I shall look for your work later on then. Thanks for today. You've all been brilliant as usual, and I will speak to you again soon. If you've got any other questions, just email me. Thanks, Year 8. I'll speak to you next time.